What's up, everyone? Jason Gilbo here with Rob Mazaika, taking a look at tonight's NBA slate. 10 games. Got a lot going on as far as injury news, a lot that happened really within the last 30 minutes or so. But overall, pretty good slate and a lot of high totals here.
Yeah, it's a big slate. A lot of high totals. Everything's over 200. There's a lot of value out there, and FanDuel has their very fun switcheroo slate where you can play two centers at the shooting guard position and a shooting guard at the center. So that'll be a little interesting.
Yeah, I might pop in. Nice change of pace there.
Yeah, it seems like they're just trying to get people to try different things out because maybe when the sites merge, that they'll have some new game modes out for us.
Yeah, definitely. Jumping in here, point guard, a couple injuries to talk about. Obviously Tony Parker probable. That kind of takes away from Mills and Murray, who we've been kind of looking at the last few games.
Yeah, I think if with Parker back, you lose the value with those two guys.
Yeah, I'm not really looking to. I don't. I'll probably wait and see with Parker. He might be a guy I look at moving forward, but really not interested in anyone there.
Yeah, I have a little interest in Parker depending on how many minutes he's gonna get. Because it didn't seem like his injury was too bad, and they were just resting him and Leonard and everyone for precaution, just because they could, and they were still winning games. So if he gets his normal minutes against the Pelicans, I have a little bit of interest.
Yeah, great matchup for him. If he's sitting there 28 minutes, and I kind of know that going in, not a bad value.
Yep.
Outside of that, though, guys in that range, Patrick Beverley is still kind of a value at that price tag. Decent matchup there against Philly. Eric Gordon out, so you're looking at Harden Beverley kind of patrolling that backcourt.
Yeah, Philly's actually been a pretty decently good defensive team this season, surprisingly. They actually might even be a playoff team with the way they're playing right now, but Beverley, he's a consistent performer. He's usually not going to get you less than 20 fantasy points, but he has upside to get up to 40 with his steal and block upside.
Yeah, definitely. And, on the other side of that game, I want to like TJ McConnell. He's a guy with huge assist upside. Beverly's a pretty good defender. I don't know how much I'll be using him, but he's kind of an intriguing GPP option.
Yeah, he is an interesting GPP play. He over 30 points in 2 of his last 3 games, 3 of his last 6 actually. So it seems like every other game is getting over 30 fantasy points. Tough matchup with Patrick Beverley probably defending him, but if he sees some James Harden, he could really perform.
Yeah, definitely. I like Philly to keep that one close. On DK, Derrick Rose at 5,700, always kind of underpriced here. He's a guy that I'm looking at. Been pretty consistent this season and has posted pretty solid games against Charlotte, who have been kind of middle of the road in fantasy points allowed. I don't mind him on DK. FanDuel, he's kind of appropriately priced.
I don't mind him on DraftKings either. I couldn't do it on FanDuel. He's 6,500 over there. It's a little high. But Kemba's not the best defender, and Rose could definitely exploit him in this matchup.
Yeah, definitely. Another guy that you like, Darren Collison. I like that Sacramento Indy game a lot tonight. I like a couple guys from it.
Yeah, that game, it should be one of the higher scoring on the night. The total's only set at 212, but I think that game's definitely going to hit the over. It's kind of taking like a shot in the dark with the backcourt between Collison and Temple. I think Collison has a lot more upside, so I'm looking to him in my tournaments.
Yeah, definitely. Out of that group, Lawson's kind of taken a bump over the last few days downwards. Matthew Dellavedova, interesting play tonight, kind of back up with his minutes. Milwaukee Toronto, that should be a fun one, kind of be back and forth. 213 total, just a 5-point spread. I like the backcourts there.
Yeah, with DeRozan out for Toronto tonight, that game should be a lot closer than it was supposed to be. And Dellavedova, his price didn't even rise on FanDuel. He's still 3,900 and getting over 30 minutes a game. And a decent matchup for him, but at that price, you're not asking for too much.
No, definitely not. We kind of get up into that mid-range. Mike Conley, Jeff Teague, I like quite a bit. I feel like Kemba Walker's a guy, that's going to be – I'm curious to see his ownership. I wonder how many people know about his games at Madison Square, how he's always kind of crushed there, college and professionally. I like him at his price for that upside.
I love Kemba Walker tonight. I'm a big UConn fan. Saw him hit those buzzer beaters at the Garden, go on that run, the Big East tournament. He just loves the big stage, and big-time players make big-time plays in big-time spots, and he's one of those.
Yeah, definitely. And I know a guy that you like for GPPs, Alfred Payton. Price has risen a little bit on both sides, but good spot here against Isaiah Thomas, who obviously not a big defender.
Yeah. Alfred Payton, I can't ever use him in cash just because of his volatility. Like, we've seen him play 30 minutes to get 10 fantasy points in a game, but we've also seen him get triple doubles before and get about 60 fantasy points in a game. So he's a total tournament play for me. It's a good matchup. and he's a good boomer bust option on this slate.
Yeah, definitely. I like him a lot. And I mean, moving up the list, you and I were in agreement that our pay up options really, with no DeRozan now, Kyle Lowry becomes kind of that elite guy, but also Kemba sitting right there.
Yeah, Lowry's probably your default option. I mean, his price has gone up to 8,600 on FanDuel, but he's still probably gonna get over 40 fantasy points in this one. And it's good, like I said, it's a good matchup. And that usage from DeRozan has to go somewhere, and Lowry takes a lot of it.
Yeah, and 1,200, down from Isaiah Thomas. I know Thomas has been crushing this year, and especially of late, but the price is a little too high. I mean, he's really got to crush and go 50, 60 plus for me to really hit GPP winning kind of type value.
Yeah, that price is very high for him. And if he's not scoring over 35 real points, really, like he's not going to really crush his value. So I think I'm going to be staying away from him, even though it's a good matchup. But I think Lowry has just as much upside, if not more, at a cheaper price.
Yeah, I think so too. And one guy I forgot to mention, Mike Conley, I like a lot tonight. I think he's gonna fly under the radar, and obviously a good matchup. Lillard's not a great defender. I'll be looking to use him as kind of him and Gasol really run that offense.
I agree with you there. The Conley Gasol pick and roll stack is a good one.
Yeah, definitely. Anyone else you were looking at?
That's it for me.
Yeah, moving on to shooting guard, and as we talked about DeRozan out tonight, that opens the door for Norman Powell, who has been excellent in the two games that he's missed so far this season, and a great matchup here against Milwaukee.
Yeah, it's a good matchup. We just touched on it with Lowry, and with DeRozan out, that usage has to go somewhere. And the last two games without DeRozan, he's put up over 30 fantasy points in both and getting over 33 minutes in both games. And he's been the chalk, but I expect him to be the chalk again.
Yeah, and a guy, I regardless of ownership, I just feel like still a solid GPP for that price because 30 plus fantasy point upside at that price tag, I'll take it where I can get it. And I just feel like he does have a little bit more upside than some of these guys around him.
Yeah, sometimes it's not bad to fade the chalk. I mean, he's a good chalk. He's a good play in tournaments, good play in cash. You could play him in whatever.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, out of that range, he's my favorite. I know Levert's a guy that you're looking at. He's shooting guard eligible on DK. If you're looking at Brooklyn, trying to keep that one close, he's picked up more minutes of late.
Yeah, he's shooting guard eligible on DraftKings, small forward on FanDuel. He typically plays the small forward position, and the Cavs, they're actually the third worst team in the league at defending small forwards. I mean, it shocked me when I saw it, but I guess they're just not really defending him well, and he's been getting over 25 minutes his last few games. The Nets, they absolutely love him. They want him to play him as much as possible and late in games when it matters. So I think he's going to be motivated to perform with all his coaches backing him tonight.
Yeah, I think so too. A couple other injuries to talk about. Avery Bradley, Evan Fournier, looking doubtful for tonight. Eric Gordon as well. That opens up the door. Bradley, obviously Marcus Smart's picked up. Didn't get the start, as you called it. Came off the bench. Still saw 30-plus minutes. You expect him to probably hop back into the starting lineup tonight.
I like Smart tonight. He's FanDuel on point guard in FanDuel. But his price is 5,600. It's all right. You've seen him get over 40 fantasy points before, and it's definitely a good matchup for him.
Yeah, definitely. And then we'll talk about Jeff Green, but obviously he would probably be the big beneficiary just because of that Orlando backcourt situation.
Yep.
Outside of that, I mean, moving up here, Deion Waiters, Dwayne Wade, both squaring off each other, both at a similar price. Waiters' price tag's risen quite a bit here over the last, week or so, but obviously because he's just been crushing. Still a cash game guy for you, or are you looking more GPPs?
I'm starting to look more GPPs. It depends on what his ownership's going to be, to be honest, because he's really a scoring-dependent player, and he's playing some of the best basketball in his career right now. But, I mean, last game he had the 8 assists and 5 rebounds, but if you go back to, like, his averages, which is typically, 4 assists, 3 rebounds, and he really needs, 35 points just to give you a good upside game.
Yeah, I think I agree with you. He's kind of more GPPs for me. I mean, as good as he's been, he's also played some really good matchups as well over the last few ones. And Chicago's been, I believe, top 5 in points allowed to opposing shooting guards. So not the greatest matchup either.
Yeah, and then we got Wade against his former team. It's a tougher matchup than you'd think, but they're going to be motivated with all the drama going on. He's been playing really well these last 3 games, scoring over 40 fantasy points in all 3, and he definitely has the upside to do it again tonight.
Yeah, and finally, I mean, he's also recording some defensive stats as well. I mean, we're looking at 13 steals over the last 3 games, 6 blocks. So that's also kind of giving him that extra ceiling.
Yeah, I just think he's just playing angry and playing motivated.
Yeah, definitely like him tonight. Batum, kind of always sits in that mid range. Like him, he's just kind of a good, consistent cash game guy.
I like Batum. The Knicks are one of the worst teams at defending shooting guards, and like you said, he's a good cash game guy. He's got a little bit of upside if he can get you a triple double, but that's asking for a lot.
Yeah, definitely. And obviously, Harden, the pay up option, which we don't really need to go into.
Yeah, Harden's he's got the most upside in the slate.
Moving to a small forward, and we'll kind of jump down and talk about LeBron James. A little expensive, playing really well of late in terms of fantasy production. Obviously, because Cleveland really hasn't been playing that well. I think the blowout's going to hurt him a little bit in terms of a ceiling.
My thing with LeBron tonight is if he's going to come in really popular, I'm just not going to use him. Like you said, there's the blowout concern, but even if this stays close, I think Kevin Love is going to be the main beneficiary of that.
Yeah, Lowe's my favorite guy if I'm getting exposure to his Cleveland team. And I just feel like, we were talking small forwards loaded again.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great spot for LeBron. Don't get me wrong. Nets are the best matchup in the NBA for anyone. But if he's going to come in high owned, the right play in tournaments is just not to use him.
I just, especially with, Paul George, Carmelo Anthony are a little bit cheaper. I mean, that mellow price on DK at 7,200 is really nice against a great, matchup for him who he's always kind of done well against Charlotte. I think, if you're looking at Paul George, great correlation with some of the guys that we'll mention from Sacramento. I mean, we like Cousins tonight. So Paul George is at that price when we finally see a little bit of ceiling here, 40 plus fantasy points in the last 2 games.
Yeah, finally, Paul George has showed up a little bit. I still like to see, a vintage Paul George game of maybe 50 fantasy points before I start hopping on board it. But it's definitely a good spot for him. Without Rudy Gay, the Sacramento team's very weak on defense. And like you said, he's gotten over 4 of the last 2 games, so he should do it again.
Yeah, I think so too. And then, we jump into this mid range here where we can just start naming off guys that we like a lot.
Yeah, there's a ton of guys. You got Ariza, Michael Kidd-Gilchrist, Covington if Embiid's out, Jay Crowder, Aaron Gordon. There's just so many options. Who's your favorite out of that mid range between 5 and 6K?
I think Crowder's probably my favorite right now, just because Avery Bradley's out. We've kind of seen him picking up a little bit more offensive usage. I mean, this is a guy, over the last 5 games, he's had double-digit shot attempts in 4 of them. So, picking up the scoring a little bit more. He's a guy I just don't mind this Boston exposure to.
Yeah, Crowder's looked pretty good lately. I watched his last few games, and he's been doing a lot of everything, scoring a little more than normal. But his price is rising on FanDuel up to 5,900, so that makes me a little hesitant. I like Trevor Ariza, though. He's only 5,200 on FanDuel. And in the last matchup against Philly way earlier in the year, he had 39 fantasy points against them. The fast-paced style really fits him, and I think this is a good game for him tonight.
Yeah, definitely. Ariza's always the guy who has reasonable upside, and I feel like people are kind of going to take less risk on him just because he's had a couple of duds lately.
Yeah, he's a tournament play for me tonight, though.
Definitely. And because that Orlando situation, Jeff Green's a guy that I'm taking a look at. Started shooting guard, saw 34 minutes. Boston's been bottom 10 against shooting guard since Avery Bradley's went out, so could be a good spot for him. Obviously, could have a little extra giddy up just because he's going up against his former team as well.
Yeah, there's the revenge game factor. I like him. He's going to get the extra run without Fournier. I like someone else, though, who's only 200 more expensive on FanDuel. Now that Eric Gordon's out, I like Sam Decker a lot. He's a good young player. Over 20 fantasy points in 3 of his last 4. We've seen him score almost 40 fantasy points in a tough matchup against Memphis. Philly's a decent defensive team, but they tend to struggle against shooting guards sometimes. And Sam Decker, he should get about 30 minutes tonight in a good matchup.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, came away with nearly 25 fantasy points last time out with the Gordon out. Played 29 minutes, so he's been the big guy to kind of run off the bench and really has earned it.
Yep.
So, Terrence Ross was another one. Obviously, I think he's just more of a GPP swerve, just because I think he's got a lower floor than Powell does.
Yeah, I like Terrence Ross for tournaments tonight just because he's very inconsistent.
Yeah, definitely. Outside of that, I mean, we talked about Wayne Ellington, small forward eligible on DK, big minutes for a cheap price.
I like Wayne Ellington a lot tonight on both FanDuel and DraftKings. His price is really low on both sites, and over the last couple of games, he's really been shooting the ball well, about 50%. I mean, he had the one bad game against the Warriors, but he still had over 5x's value, so he's pretty shot dependent. It's a good spot for him. He's a good punt play.
Yeah, definitely agree. Outside of that, I mean, you're really looking at anyone else?
I got one more guy. I like CJ Miles. Not a lot of people know that he's back, but his last three games, he had over 27 minutes, and he's a tournament play because he's very scoring dependent. But he gets the same matchup as Paul George today, and he's minimum price on FanDuel, so I gotta have him in consideration.
Yeah, I mean, obviously you can set Sacramento defense as well, which has been lacking. Miles, bear him in. How could you go wrong there?
Yeah, we've played him before when he was 4,500, so why wouldn't we play him when he's minimum price getting the same minutes?
Yeah, definitely. I'm going to go to power forward, and I mean, a couple options up top. I mean, you have Kevin Love, Paul Millsap that are kind of jumping in as my two guys.
Yeah, Kevin Love's he's one of my favorite plays in the night, just because that matchup with Brooklyn's too good, and then he's just destroyed them.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, bottom five rebounding team. Love, easy double candidate tonight. After those guys, I mean, I kind of take a big jump downwards. I'm not really looking at guys like Jabari Parker tonight, even though he's in a good spot. Toronto's been kind of bad against power forwards this year. Um, Still a good cash game guy, but the price is a little bit high for me.
Yeah, he just hasn't been himself lately. I mean, the minutes have been there, but I mean, he had that one big game, but besides that, his price is too high for the amount of production he's given.
I just feel like I can get it cheaper right now.
Yeah, players like Markieff Morris, who's been playing amazing basketball lately, his price is up to 6,900 on FanDuel, but he's probably going to outscore Parker, and Parker's 900 more. So he has a higher ceiling than Parker right now. He's been doing everything across the board, and if he doesn't get ejected instantly, he's a good play.
Yeah, definitely. And I feel like Millsap right there as well at this similar price tag. I just like Millsap's defensive ability to kind of rack up and get a higher ceiling.
Yeah, same here.
So, moving down the list, Zach Randolph's a guy who's historically crushed his former team. Heading into Portland tonight, they allow the most fantasy points to opposing power forwards. I still think, regardless of Green's status, Randolph is in play for me.
He's in play for me too. I was all over him the other night. Unfortunately, he had a decent game, but it wasn't enough for me to take down the tournament or anything. If Green's out, we'll probably see him over 30 minutes again. If Green's in, his minutes might go down to maybe like 26, 25, which is normal. But the matchup's really good against Portland, like you said, former team. And I think a lot of people are going to go towards Marc Gasol, but Zach Randolph would be a good game theory play there.
Yeah, definitely at a cheaper price tag. And then we could talk about the Philly front court situation right now. Joel Embiid, listed as questionable, probably more on the probable side. Okafor available for tonight. That kind of downgrades Noel, except I kind of could see Noel maybe getting a jump ahead of Okafor in terms of minutes.
Yeah, I could see that too, just because of the way he's played. And then the game's on national TV, so they're going to want to show off Noel if they want to trade him. So that's the only thing that would get me on Noel. But other than that, I think I might be staying away from the whole Philly front court tonight.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, Noel probably more in play on FanDuel just because he's still sub 5K, 5,800 on DK. Now he's just off the table there.
Yeah, I agree.
But guys in that range, I mean, Thaddeus Young, James Johnson, both in play for me. Ryan Anderson gets a bump with Eric Gordon, so it's not like you have a lack of options.
Yeah, Whiteside's questionable, so if Whiteside's out, I love James Johnson.
Yeah, definitely. And you were looking at another power forward guy who's on DK only with that Miami front court situation.
Yeah, this is my crazy play of the day. He's power forward, 3,500 on DraftKings. He's not eligible on FanDuel, but it's Okaro White. He's on a 10-day contract, and he's absolutely performed his last game against the Nets in 27 minutes. Had over 30 fantasy points. He's a scrappy player, not the best offensive guy, but he tries to do a little everything across the board. The effort's going to be there because he's gunning for that contract. And Spoelstra said that he wants to give this guy minutes, and I'm totally fine taking a deep tournament shot on him tonight.
Yeah, I am too. I mean, I wasn't aware of him until we talked today and seen those minutes. I mean, against Brooklyn, but Chicago, I mean, I don't think they've played the best defense of late. They've really looked down, especially in that front court. So, I think a majority of the people will just stay away, one, because they don't know him, but also because the matchup just looks bad on paper.
Yeah, he's the sub 1% play of the day that, he's like Hernan Gomez a couple weeks ago. He can get me 5 fantasy points. I mean, or he can get me 35, but that's what I want in a tournament. I want that low-end guy who's going to absolutely smash his value.
Yeah, definitely. And outside of that, I mean, I think those are probably the guys that I'm sticking with in terms of value.
Yeah, that's it for me at power forward.
Moonroad center, and this is a weird night at center. I feel like usually I like a good amount of value, but for me, it's either pay up or kind of pay down, take a risk with some of these GPP guys.
Yeah, I have 2 guys specifically on my radar tonight. I think we all know who they are. Boogie at the top, obviously, he's going to contend for the highest score tonight. Indiana is one of the worst rebounding teams in the NBA. I wrote him up in the GPP article, so you could look in there if you want to see more. But my dude, Villier Hernan-Gomez. He could come in as the chalk player tonight, and that makes me a little upset, but he's good. He's just too good right now for his price on DraftKings.
Yeah, 3,900. I mean, 26 rebounds over the last 2 games. He's played 24 minutes. When he's played 20 plus minutes, this is a guy who's going to get you 25, 30 plus. I mean, on a fantasy points per minute basis, he's been solid. And we look, I mean, obviously a great matchup. Charlotte has been horrendous against centers this year.
Yeah, I've been riding this dude for weeks now, and it's finally really starting to pay off. FanDuel price is a little higher. He's 4,700. But honestly, he's a good tournament play at that price too, because if he gets you 25 minutes, he's still going to get you at least 6, 7x on his price tag.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, outside of that, Tristan Thompson's in that range. Willie Reed, if Whiteside's out. Greg Monroe. I think they're all great tournament options, especially on DraftKings, where you can kind of pair him with a boogie.
Yeah, Tristan Thompson, he's a really good play on DraftKings. Over his career, he's destroyed the Nets. He's averaging 35 fantasy points against them this season alone. He's guaranteed to get you a double-double, and he'll probably block at least 2 shots in this game against a team that gets blocked like crazy.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, outside of that, though, that middle range is kind of off. I mean, I'm not really looking at Lopez tonight. I'm not really looking at Plumlee or Turner. Howard might be an interesting one on DK at 6,700.
Yeah, same here. That DraftKings price is a little low for him. Even FanDuel, he's 7,100, but we really haven't seen a big game at him in a little while.
We haven't. The minutes have just been kind of pretty, average at times this year. Has done well against Washington, in 2 games, 15 and 15 in both of those.
Yeah, so I mean, if you can get that at 15 and 15 at that price, he's a pretty good tournament play.
Definitely, and I think a guy that we're looking at for safety is Al Horford. Price really never seems to do us justice with how he's played this year. Great cash game guy.
Yeah, excellent cash game guy. Not much of a ceiling, just because last game he hit his ceiling of 46 fantasy points, but he needed 3 steals and 2 blocks just to get there. So I think he's safe for about 35 tonight.
Yeah, I do too. He's always kind of around that mark. And a guy that I'm looking to fade, Miles Turner, I just feel like it's going to be one of those foul trouble nights going up against Boogie.
Yeah, Boogie is a tough guy to defend.
So outside of that center, I mean, I know Hernan-Gomez is your guy. So anyone else you're looking at?
That's it. I'm really just narrowed to Boogie and Hernan-Gomez and Thompson tonight.
Yeah, I am too. So kind of limited center. Who are you looking at as kind of your highest guy? Let's say, non-Harden.
Oh, Boogie.
Boogie, yeah, me too. I'm looking at him. Although Lowry, I feel like could be a contender too.
He could be, especially at that cheap price and without DeRozan.
Yeah, definitely. So that's going to wrap things up. Be sure to check out our cheat sheets and great NBA content tools.
Yep. Happy Hernan-Gomez Day.